going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to our Washington football team versus 49ers preview. My name is Zach Hernandez, and I am joined by my Red and Gold Standard co-host, Anthony. Anthony, how you doing?
What's going on, Zach? What's going on, Faithful? Glad to be on the live show, man. Obviously, the game's tomorrow, afternoon game on the slate, and we got a lot to talk about, man. This is it secretly feels like one of those games where obviously everything is on the line for the 49ers, but you can say the same thing about Washington too, and both teams are going to be coming in hard. They're going to be playing hard, and I can't wait to break it down.
Yeah, man. And real quick, you recently did a interview preview with Matthew Paris of the Washington Times. Great interview. If you guys haven't seen it, go and check it out. It's on our YouTube channel. It's also out on iTunes, Spotify, all the podcast apps. Just released this morning, actually. So make sure you guys go and check that out. But the video version is on YouTube if you want to check that out as well. It was really good. I just want to give you props for that, Anthony. You and Dylan did a great job on that one. This is a weird game. I mean, I feel like if the 49ers had won last week, obviously we'd be a lot more hyped going into this preview, but unfortunately they didn't. And here we are. Is there still some reason to be excited about tomorrow's game in your mind?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And if you're the 49ers fan that doesn't believe in draft capital and you want the team to make the playoffs, this is the game for you. Obviously, this Washington football team comes in as a very formidable foe, top 5 defense in the league, bottom 20 offense in the league in terms of DVOA, although the past 5 weeks since Alex Smith has come in, they've actually been playing at a respectable level in terms of offense. So Washington is no pushover at this time of the year, man. They're first in the NFC East. They're going to be a really hard competition, man. This is going to be a really tough game for the Niners. And by no means should the Niners come in and just treat this game like they're going to lose. Everything works in favor towards the Niners, as always is the case as a 49ers fan. So we have a lot to talk about, man. But if you're the type of fan that wants them to make the playoffs, this is a winnable game. This is the type of game where you go, all right, Washington has all these different factors that we're going to discuss that will work in the 49ers' favor. It's just a matter of, can the 49ers actually have that work in their favor? And if you're not a fan of playoffs and you're a fan of draft capital, then this may be the game for you as well. We're going to break it all down in this preview, man. But it's one of those games that feels like it will go both ways. I mean, I don't even know what my score prediction is right now, and obviously we'll get into that later. But it's the toss-up, man. This game feels like a really weird toss-up.
Yeah, it really does. And the last I checked, it might have changed, but I think the line was at 4 points. The 49ers were being favored by. That's interesting. And I mean, last week, I think they were favored by 3 points too. Oh, no, it was even last week against the Bills. Don't know what they were seeing there. I was astonished that it was even. Obviously, the big storyline here is the 49ers are facing Alex Smith. I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time since he left, right?
Yeah. As far as I recall, I don't think Alex has played the 49ers since the trade back in, 2013? God, 7 years ago. That's about how long it's been since Alex Smith has been removed from the 49ers roster. And that, I mean, I was still in high school at the time. That's how long it's been, man. Crazy how time flies. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, that was a long time ago. But shout out to Alex Smith. Definitely comeback player of the year. Everything he's gone through, he's back, he's battling. And I'm just really excited to see what he can do. Obviously not tomorrow, but if, the NFC East is ridiculously bad, if they happen to win out and sneak into the playoffs, it'll be something to keep an eye on. But as far as tomorrow, you did talk about draft capital. You talked about the playoff spot. I know the 49ers have a lot going against them, including themselves. They don't seem to be too rushed, or there's not much concern to continue winning, unfortunately. My question for you, though, is how much did the defense last week on Monday night, how much of that was just them going up against a really good quarterback and a really good offense? Or do you think that's just the defense is starting to fall apart and these are things that we're going to continue seeing for the rest of the year?
I'm going to give the 49ers the benefit of the doubt, Zach. I mean, the 49ers defense has been playing lights out all season long. I thought they contained Russell Wilson for the most part in the game that really I felt like obviously you can say this about any of the games this year, but in the first quarter and basically the first half, the Niners kind of limited Russell Wilson pretty well. And then Aaron Rodgers in himself, the first quarter wasn't that bad as well. Drew Brees before Kentavious Street ended his career, basically. So all in all, the Niners have been playing well against good quarterbacks. It's just Josh Allen is really good, Zach, really good, you guys. I mean, Josh Allen is playing like a top 5 quarterback. And what we saw from Allen, man, I mean, if you didn't think of Patrick Mahomes watching Allen throw the ball like he did, then I honestly don't know what you were watching, man. And everyone will blast the Niners defense and blast Robert Saleh for not making adjustments, but sometimes when you have your personnel and you have the personnel that's been playing well, the good guy just plays better. That's just what happens, man. Josh Allen played his ass off. I'm not going to lie. And when you don't have the offense to really sustain, to sustain drives and really keep up with him, it makes Josh Allen look all the more better. Had the Niners scored a touchdown to finish the first quarter, even finish the second half, and really made it a close game, we wouldn't have been saying Josh Allen was lighting up because the Bills had 17 points going into halftime. And when you see that, it's like, well, they were doing pretty well at containing Josh Allen. It's just a matter of the offense not being able to keep up their end of the bargain. So I will give them the benefit of the doubt, Zach. I thought the 49ers defense did as well as they could. It's just Josh Allen. That's all you can really say. It's not that the Bills really feature that good of weapons. I mean, the Niners stymied the Bills' run game all evening. It's just Stephon Diggs played well, Cole Beasley played well, and Josh Allen was just throwing everyone open. And sometimes even the best of coverages can't prevent that. So I give them the benefit of the doubt. I still like the Niners defense coming into this matchup. They luckily don't have to play a quarterback of Josh Allen's caliber for the rest of the season. So it'll save me a few tears at the end of the night.
They still have a matchup with Russell Wilson, though, so let's not get too comfortable. Josh Allen looked like an MVP type quarterback. He was phenomenal Monday night. The 49ers had no answer for Cole Beasley, which is scary to me because Cole Beasley isn't necessarily one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. I think at halftime, if I remember, he had like 113 yards. He had a career day by halftime. I mean, it was just extremely unlike this 49ers defense to give up the performance they did. And, there's a comment here, Hunk Bat, I was disappointed in Sherm. I want to say I was, but at the same time, I don't, and I mean this with all respect to Richard Sherman, I don't expect much out of him anymore, unfortunately. I expect a solid corner, a little above average. Maybe he's still going to get some respect due to his reputation and his name, and the quarterback's not going to throw to him based off that. But for the most part, I think that the 49ers' best corner is Jason Verrett. And I would say I was more disappointed in Verrett than I was in Sherm. What do you think?
Yeah, Zach, Sherman just, that busted coverage, it feels like really just kind of summed up his night all evening. I mean, Jason Verrett was doing no better, but you didn't see a busted coverage from Verrett. That's the bottom line. And you saw it from Sherman. And a lot of people, and especially on Niners Twitter, and even the players will say, well, one viral play that everyone doesn't like doesn't, really talk about how our play has been for the whole season. But when you talk about Richard Sherman's level of play, coming off of the day before when he was saying, yeah, this is likely my last run with the team. I mean, when you're going out on the limb and saying that, and then you go out on the field and just absolutely get your butt kicked, it doesn't help the stock whatsoever, man. I mean, a lot of people, and especially Niners Twitter, likes to put stock into the words that players say, like Mike McGlinchey's "I'm still here," and then all the other players backing everyone up. And yeah, I mean, the eye roll is exactly the point, And you have Sherman going out saying what he did in regards to not being back with the team. Like, okay, I get it. He's being honest, and that likely is the truth. He won't be back. Yeah. It's just that, the timing couldn't have been any more terrible for Richard Sherman, And I mean, if he wants to play bad and make himself affordable to come back with the team, then be my guest. He can do as he pleases. But the bottom line is that Richard Sherman, since really his return, going up against the one quarterback that the team finally has faced that has been really good, Sherman just looked awful, man. And I mean, it wasn't just Stephon Diggs he was on in coverage, whether it's Gabriel Davis, who led to that touchdown, I believe, or Cole Beasley running a route on his side of the field. Whatever it was, Zach, Sherman just did not look good at all. And I'm not going to go out like everyone is saying that, oh, Sherman's washed, Sherman's done. I don't think that's the case. It's just, I don't think he's at the level of play at his age where he can really keep up with these high flight offenses. And we saw it in the Super Bowl. He's looked good against bad offenses this season, but the moment you throw in a top 10 offense, it's pretty obvious that his age is caught up to him.
Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate, but that's just where he's at in his career. And I mean, we said it on the post-game live stream recap, and I kind of joked around and I said he came out beforehand saying, I'm probably not going to be back. Maybe he saw into the future and saw his performance on Monday night, because that was pretty damning. And I just don't know how many games of that does he have left with the 49ers. If he were to re-sign, is he going to, develop into a liability for the team? And for somebody who's been that good for such a long period of time, you hate to see it. You don't want to see, Michael
Right.
Jordan average 2 points per game or something like that. No, you want to, and that's why you always say you got to go out on top. And if this is Richard Sherman's last kind of hoorah, maybe he ends up signing with a playoff bound team next season. But if not, it's unfortunate that he didn't get a ring with San Francisco. They should have got one last year. The team was good enough to get it. They didn't. So that would be really, unfortunate to see. Question here from Collie Young. Good evening, fellas. If Saleh takes a head coaching position, who do you guys see as his replacement? I like D'Amico Ryans or possibly Raheem Morris. You can go first.
I think that in terms of how the Niners want to promote their staff, I think they will keep it in-house. I like D'Amico Ryans. I like Chris Kosierek as well. Both those two guys will definitely be the hot-headed candidates in terms of taking over the DC position. D'Amico Ryans, man, he's just been with the team longer. I think he brings a lot more to the table in terms of playing experience and just how he's received in the locker room. And I've read a lot of articles just saying that D'Amico Ryans is well respected and well loved. He knows the game. He's basically been under Robert Saleh's system since Ryan has come here. And I mean, what better way than to take over for the guy that's leaving and then understand the same system? And I mean, none of the personnel outside of Sherman and a couple other free agents are going to be leaving per se. But D'Amico Ryans, I would think that if John Lynch and Shanahan like him, he'll be stepping into a good position, Zach. And same with Chris Kosierek, too. If they think that Chris Kosierek is the guy, and I mean, we've seen what he's done with the defensive line, that if you just looked at that defensive line on paper, you would say that they weren't even the top 20 unit in the league. I mean, we're talking about Kerry Hyder, Kevin Givens, DJ Jones, Eric Armstead, who at the time would be pretty well respected. But if you look at his level of play, obviously he hasn't lived up to the contract. So what Chris Kosierek is doing with the team is by and far shocking, to say the least. But Ryans, Kosierek, you guys, I definitely like those two as kind of lead candidates if the team wants to look in-house. If not, then you got guys like Dan Quinn, obviously familiar with Kyle Shanahan, is another really hot candidate, just got fired. And that's, on the outside candidates, that's all I really see. I don't like thinking of other head coaches or other positional coaches in other teams. I think if the team wants to kind of try to really keep the continuity of the locker room and keep that chemistry moving forward, I would imagine they'd prefer in-house.
Yeah, totally agree with you. We've talked about D'Amico Ryans previously. I think that he's going to be looked at if Saleh does leave, and he will likely kind of become a hot name in a few years in a next coaching cycle if that does happen. I think the team really believes in him. Looking back to his days as a linebacker with the Texans, he was a fantastic linebacker, an extremely underrated linebacker, but his career was, stout, extraordinary career. And he seems like such a smart, high football IQ type of guy that I would be more than happy with leading the 49ers defense, because he's just got that passion, the knowledge, and the expertise to go out and show these younger guys how to get it done. There's a comment here, though, that I totally agree with. I'd be more concerned with who he takes with him. Do you think that's a possibility, that he takes, a couple of these big, passing game coordinators on the offense, or even, Chris Kosierek could be a hot name that he takes with him too? Is that something you're worried about?
I was actually just going to reply to that comment too, man. Chris Kosierek, man, just because of what Kosierek has done with the team the past 2 years, I would be more concerned about losing Kosierek than D'Amico Ryans. And that's, again, like you're talking, all due respect to D'Amico Ryans, man. He's a fantastic coach and a fantastic leader. But you figure where the Niners at linebacking wise, and you have Fred Warner, who's a top 3 linebacker, arguably top 1 middle linebacker in the league. And you have Greenlaw is playing just as well. Shire has been playing well in the backup role also, and pretty much the linebackers that have been in the position. But when you look at positional importance, and you look at what Kosierek has done with the defensive line, his impact is very well known on this defense, Zach. And if I'm the head coach or if I'm the ownership, I don't know if I can afford to lose that. If I'm Lynch and Jed York, man, I think I'm giving Chris Kosierek a blank paycheck and saying, look, whether you want to stay as a D-line coach or stay as a defensive coordinator, be my guest, but we're giving you the check. We've seen what you've done. You have a proven track record. You're making our job easier by making unknown commodities, arguably playing at an all-pro level. Kerry Hyder is going to be an all-pro. Kevin Givens and DJ Jones are likely to develop into very significant roles down the road. And that's assuming they bring back Jones. But in any event, man, Chris Kosierek's impact is well known. they got to keep him. I think they really got to keep him. And it sucks to have to even talk about them losing coaches. And you can look at the same thing on the other side of the ball too, man. I mean, Mike McDaniel, the run game coordinator, is just as important. The quarterback's coach, the wide receivers coach, anyone you can name, man. Robert Saleh, if he leaves, is going to take a coach or two. And I think out of all of them, I really just hope it's not Coach Eric.
Yeah, 100%. This could be, I don't want to be too dramatic here, but it could be really, really damaging for the 49ers. They have a fantastic coaching staff put together right now, and I would hate to see that get poached from. We already saw some of these coaches kind of being poached slowly. They also special teams coach, I believe, last season. Robert Saleh has been in the news for a head coaching gig for the past couple of years. Adam Schefter recently had him on his podcast, I believe. I think all of the signs are there. He's not going to be here next season, barring some unforeseen, crazy event that another DC gets a lot of recognition for. I do think it's likely Robert Saleh, this is his last year with the 49ers. But let's get back to this preview. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. Who on the Washington football team on their offense worries you the most?
Man, Matthew Paris said in our interview, and again, guys, if you don't listen, check it out on the Red and Gold Standard podcast, my interview with Matthew Paris, as well as Dylan on the show. Check it out on the pod, check it out on YouTube. We have the live video up as well. Matthew talked about the one key player that we need to stop as the 49ers, and it was Terry McLaurin, man. Terry McLaurin is absolutely one of the most dynamic, fast, most savvy route runners in the entire league, and he's only in his second year. Dylan said on the show, it seems like Terry's already on his way to have another breakout year, and it feels like his rookie year was already a breakout year. McLaurin's on pace for over 7 touchdowns, 1,000 receiving yards. He can carry the ball every now and then too. So all in all, Zach, Terry McLaurin is going to be the one guy the team is going to have to really key in on. Last season with the Washington team, man, McLaurin was kind of the offense. This season in particular, now that Ron Rivera has taken over, it's been kind of McLaurin, but other wide receiver weapons and tight ends like Logan Thomas, Cam Sims, Kendall Wright, or Isaiah Wright, they've all kind of stepped up in that receiving room also. But all in all, man, it's still a Scary Terry show. And we kind of seen the historical context of how well Richard Sherman does against speed. So I would be pretty concerned, to say the least, if McLaurin is on Sherman's side of the field. I would imagine McLaurin. So with Alex Smith under center, I don't think McLaurin will operate similarly to how we've defended Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf. That's not to disrespect McLaurin. It's just, I think, with better receiving weapons that the Washington football team has, it gives the defense more of a chance to really focus on McLaurin. But with that being said, man, he's still a solid number one wide receiver, and whatever DB is on his side of the field, all I'm going to say is they better respect that speed, man, because that dude can fly.
Yeah, he's a great wide receiver for them. Alex Smith, now that they have kind of a steady, consistent quarterback, able to get him the ball consistently, I do think he's going to be a big problem for the 49ers. But I guess the best thing about the Washington football team, that at least from the 49ers defensive perspective, is there's no triple threat at wide receiver of guys that could beat you, either with speed or just possession receivers or physicality. I would say it's Terry McLaurin and then Logan Paulson, their tight end, who's kind of started to come on recently. He's a big target and he's physical. I do think that that's a guy that the 49ers are going to have to worry about. Now, as far as other pieces in the offense, J.D. McKissick too, their running back, great running back, fantastic with catching the ball out of the backfield. It could be a lot for the 49ers to handle, especially without being able to generate too much pressure up front, unfortunately. I just hope they're able to rebound, and I would put my money on they do rebound, at least defensively tomorrow, because you don't usually see this unit have two bad performances back to back. And I know you guys are probably laughing, thinking like the New Orleans game, Seattle game. They've started to kind of find their own groove, and they're kind of coming into their own. I know it's way too late in the season, and it's essentially a lost season at this point, but I do think the defense is the strong suit of the 49ers. And as long as their offense just shows up tomorrow, I think they have a good shot at winning this game. Question here, Collie Young, is K1 good to go for Sunday? Have you seen the injury report? I forgot to pull it up. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's officially listed as questionable. Kevin Givens is out with the birth of his child. Tom Compton's out with the concussion. I know DJ Jones and Emmanuel Mosley are both doubtful with their injuries as well. So really the only guy we're going to kind of hear about probably up until the last second is K'Wan Williams, man. But having Shark back will be huge. I definitely don't want to see Dante Johnson back out on the field, man. And I mean, Dante Johnson at this point in his career is, I mean, he's a body to have out on the field. He's obviously the weakest link in terms of the secondary. And I would say that his level of play is good to have if you really need a super big backup. And obviously Dante Johnson is no answer to go to. So not having Mosley and then K'Wan Williams' questionability is really key for the Niners. It really depends on how the Washington football team is going to line up their wide receivers. Terry McLaurin in the slot, if that's the case, lined up on Dante Johnson is definitely very scary to think about, to say the least. And outside of that, Cam Sims, Isaiah Wright, Gandy Golden, I know, is hurt. The other wide receiver weapons really aren't too much to fear. It's just a matter of what they're going to do with Terry McLaurin, Zach. And if they line him up in the slot, I would be very concerned. If they line Terry McLaurin up outside, I would still be very concerned, to say the least. So not having K'Wan Williams back is going to be huge, man. And you said earlier, obviously the team hasn't been able to really just make up for the lack of defensive pressure. Obviously the line has been playing better than expected, but by no means are they at the level they were at last season. Luckily for the 49ers, the Washington football team is allowing sack percentage 19% of the time, which means that the offensive line is not pass blocking very well. It also means that Alex Smith does not move in the pocket as well either. And that's kind of where he's at in his career, man. I mean, obviously the devastating leg injury has sapped pretty much all of Alex Smith's speed. It doesn't take away from the mental ability. Alex Smith is still a fantastic, smart quarterback. It's just the moment he faces pressure, he can't escape. There's no escapability from within the pocket. So it's a matter of, can the 49ers defense or defensive line really contain Alex? And obviously that's the case. And then from there, it's a matter of, can they just hit home and sack him? If they can do that, man, it's going to be a long day for Washington. But if they can't, it's going to be a really long day for Dante Johnson. And arguably K'Wan too, if Terry McLaurin's back, man, because McLaurin's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, eager to see how this plays out for the 49ers. It's a weird matchup. I know the 49ers faced them last year, but it's kind of that weird mud bowl that they had. newbie. Yeah, exactly. Just what I was getting into. They had that, historic mudslide and the fantastic pictures. They're going to destroy us. That's funny. They did just beat Pittsburgh. First team to do that all year. Kind of a shock. I don't know how much stock I'd put into that, but I do think that they're a tough matchup, and I'm not sure which 49ers are going to show up. Is it going to be the 49ers that played the Rams a couple of weeks ago? That was a solid team. They were able to fight and get the win. Or is it going to be the team that showed up Monday night who just basically laid down and took it, after their first couple drives, it just got progressively worse. Real quick, everybody here, do us a solid, like this video, share this video, and right now we do have our jersey giveaway going on. If you guys want to enter, subscribe, comment on the video, your username, either on Twitter, Instagram. That way we can get a hold of you if you win. And that's pretty much all you got to do. If you're already subscribed, all you got to do is tweet or share one of our videos and tag us in it, and you are entered in. So make sure you guys do that. You could win a 49ers jersey. We're announcing the winner the 17th. So you guys have until the 17th to do that. Good luck, everyone. Make sure you guys do that. And while we're here real quick, we have some new merch. It's made in good fun. I want to show you guys it real quick. We got two designs, so I'll show you the first one right now. And the link's in the bio if you guys want to get this. That's our Santa Claus merch. We had a lot of fun with that. So go and check that out. You guys can use code HIVE15 for 15% off. Link should be in the bio. It's on our Teespring store if not, so go and check that out. We have another design. We'll show that a little later, but Shanahan as Santa Claus. Can't get more fun than that. There's a question here. Alex versus Nick. I assume Alex Smith versus Nick Mullins. Anthony, who do you think does better tomorrow?
Man, we've been kind of talking about the defensive matchup all afternoon, Zach, but I guess we can go into the 49ers offense a little bit. It's another game where the 49ers offense is pretty much coming in fully healthy outside of George Kittle and Jimmy Garoppolo, man. It's another game for Nick Mullins, another game to see if we're going to see, New York Giants Nick Mullins from weeks ago, it feels like, or if we're going to see the Nick Mullins we saw last week against the Bills. Washington football team, top 5 defense, Their secondary is a little bit suspect. The Shazer Everett, one of their safeties, pretty much a backup, kind of exploitable in the back end there. The cornerbacks as well, not so much as a good matchup for the Washington football team in terms of going up against Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. So really, Zach, on paper and statistically, it feels like that the 49ers wide receivers and tight ends should be able to dominate this Washington secondary. Outside of Cole Holcomb, the Washington's linebackers are pretty weak for the most part. Ayuk and Deebo Samuel should be able to get a lot of separation, man. This should be one of those games where these guys will be able to separate. They will be able to just get open and catch the ball. It's just a matter of Nick Mullins can hit his throws and hit them on the money, Zach. And obviously Matt's not here to honor Nick Mullins in the best way possible, but we know that Matt doesn't necessarily believe in Noodle Nick. I won't say that I do or don't, just because, again, on paper, this is a really good matchup for the 49ers offense. Obviously, no George Kittle, but you still have Jordan Reed, who's coming into a season of his own, playing very well. Ross Dwelly got a little bit more involved against the Bills last week as well. We saw Kyle Juszczyk get more involved with the offense in terms of touching the ball. And then obviously Deebo and Brandon Ayuk. So Nick Mullins has the weapons. It's just a matter of if he can execute. And going up against this defensive line, I'll let you break down the Washington football team's defensive line, but for Nick Mullins, man, I think it will be a pretty tough afternoon in terms of pressure.
Yeah, it definitely will. I mean, it all starts with Chase Young. He is going to be an absolute handful for the 49ers, for Trent Williams, and I'm not sure how much they're going to be able to stop. Washington has one of the best defensive lines in all of football, and I'm really nervous, I want to say, for Nick Mullins, because a couple weeks ago, he was getting killed constantly. I mean, by the Rams, he got sacked a bunch. Last week, I know he got hit a bunch. So tomorrow, I'm not too confident in the offensive line's ability to keep him straight up. And yeah, O-line is putrid at best. What happened to McGlinchey? He apparently went on Jenny Craig or some weight loss program because the guy's like 200 pounds.
That dude's a tight end, man.
How tall is he? Like 6'8", 6'7"?
Yeah, he's a big dude to be that slim too. It's really scary. Yes. I mean,
it really is.
Chase Young, dude. If I'm Chase Young or Jonathan Allen or Montez Sweat, oh my God. I mean, I would stay away from Trent Williams because Trent Williams is playing the best he's ever played this season. But on the other side of the line, man, Mike McGlinchey, it's lunchtime for those defensive linemen, and I would be concerned for Nick Mullins to say the least.
Yeah, same here, man. It's going to be a long day if they can't figure out how to get them, blocked. And I don't know if that entails keeping a running back in the backfield, a chip, pulling a tight end back. But either way, Nick's not going to have much time to get that ball out. We're going to need quick throws, pre-rehearsed kind of throws, plays. I don't know the word I'm looking for here, but stuff that's, he knows where his target's going to be, two-step drops, get it out, because if not, he's going to get killed. It's going to be ugly. Let's see. Brandon Ferrigno, do they think they still have a chance at the playoffs, or do they tank it? What do you think?
I never promote tanking, man. I'll say that, those are conversations saved for after the show. But I will say on show, man, the Niners obviously shouldn't tank. This playoff race is wide open. And if you're an optimist in the playoffs, man, I mean, Minnesota's 5-7, the Bears are 5-7, Arizona's 6-6, but by no means is Arizona even reliant. They don't feel like they're a confident team to make the playoffs. I think they've lost 3 out of the last 4. They've been a very cold team. Minnesota's been hot, but who knows if you can trust Kirk Cousins. I don't remember who Minnesota's playing. I think they got to play Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay has been another inconsistent team, and they're a wild card team all in its own. So the playoff race is wide open, and by no means, if you're an optimist, you should count out the 49ers. If it's anything best, man, Kyle Shanahan coaches his best when his back is against the wall, even with all the injuries. He's still a fantastic coach, still top 10 in the league. It's just a matter of, can these guys execute? And it doesn't feel like it'll take a miracle for the 49ers to make the playoffs unless the Cardinals win 4 in a row. Then if that's the case, then that's it. But if the Niners finish at 9-7 and they just run the table and win out, we could see a scenario where the Niners do sneak in as the 8 seed. But a lot of things have to go right. A lot of bad teams have to lose, and a lot of good teams have to win and just help the 49ers all on its own. So it's definitely going to be a tight race. I think the Niners do have a chance. But if they lose this game, man, it will take a miracle, and I won't say embrace the tank, but I will say that losing is a lot more important than winning at that point.
I totally agree, unfortunately. Matt and I have talked about this, and we basically break it down as look at the long-term plan, like what's winning a couple extra games this year going to do. And I always like to compare it. I've been saying this to people on Twitter that were saying, weeks ago, no, win out, no matter what, even if they don't make the playoffs. Would you have rather won a couple of extra games and not got Nick Bosa? Or would you rather have been okay with losing those games and you're able to select Nick Bosa? And with a position possibly as important as the quarterback, I don't see the point of winning, of going 7-9 as opposed to maybe 5-11. Like there's really not the extra motivation there if you're not going to make it into the playoffs. If you make it into the playoffs, cool. All bets are off. You can do, like stuff happens in the playoffs. Crazy things happen, like the Eagles that won a couple of years ago. Nobody really expected that to happen. It's about getting to the dance, but if you're not going to even get in, then there's really no point. And my biggest fear that I've been saying for weeks, I feel like, is they end up in this purgatory stage where they don't quite make the playoffs, but they finish just outside of like the top 15 picks to where it just proves too costly to move up and get a guy like a Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. If they happen to want to take a quarterback in the first round, finishing in the bottom half of the first round is huge. It's a big challenge to overcome if you want to have to trade up into the first 10 picks or so. So that's just kind of my biggest fear is they end up in no man's land, don't quite make the playoffs, but they're also way outside of a draft spot to where they can get a quarterback that they feel comfortable with. More comments here. Trent is going up against Washington football team, number 1 pick. I hope he brings his A game. 100%. He hates Washington. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. I was listening to 49ers talk with Matt Mayoko and Laura Britt, and Mayoko was interviewing Trent Williams. And Trent Williams was talking a lot about how he has respect for some of the personnel that's still left with Washington, including the he played with also. But by no means, and yeah, that's quote unquote. And I think he was just kind of saving face for the interview. But yeah, Trent Williams, I mean, there's no bridges left between him and Washington, man. And I know he's going into this or next season as a free agent, but if anyone puts money on him joining Washington, I think you have better luck of getting hit by lightning. That's how bad his tenure was with the team. But yeah, Noob's right, man. Trent's gonna have to bring his A game. But I would put money on that happening, whether it's Chase Young over him or Montez Sweat, versus the rest of the offensive line, Zach. And I think this is kind of a good segue into the offensive line. What do you expect from these guys, man? Obviously, we kind of joked around about Mike McGlinchey a bit, but the bottom line here is that Laken Tomlinson, Daniel Brunskill, and Colton McKivitz is going to play at right guard because Tom Compton is out with the concussion, man. And McKivitz has not looked good this season. Obviously, he's a second-round rookie. He just kind of got thrust into the starting lineup, and I wouldn't have expected him to be playing as bad as he's been, but it's been really bad, Zach. So what can we expect from the rest of the offensive line, and what do you think the outlook is for the game?
I'm not expecting much, sadly, outside of Trent Williams. I just can't count on this offensive line to do their jobs consistently. That's unfortunately where we are with this team. They've had way too many injuries to overcome, and the guys that are there, they're simply unproven, not talented enough, and they're going up against one of, if not the best defensive line in all of football with the Washington football team, and they're going to have their hands full. We talked about Trent Williams. I'm confident in his ability. He's had, I think, one bad game all year, and I think that was the Eagles game. But outside of that, he's been solid. He's been consistent. He's a vet, and you know what you can get out of him. I don't know what I can get out of guys like, Colton McKivitz, like Slim Mike McGlinchey. These are guys that are not consistent. If they are consistent, they're consistently bad, which is not what the 49ers want. So I'm not confident at all in their ability to protect, to do their jobs, to win these one-on-one matchups with the Washington football team. Defensive lineman. That was a close one. That almost got me there. I do think, though, that they will be able to overcome that, and I don't mean they by the offensive line. I mean Kyle Shanahan in scheming around that. I think he understands the team's setbacks and deficiencies, and I think he understands that that's a big one. And I'm looking for, two-step drops, really quick throws, and a lot of runs, perhaps maybe some draws, some screen passes. There are ways to overcome a vaunted defensive line and a really, really poor offensive line. And if there's anybody in the NFL that can do it, I think it's Kyle Shanahan. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say so too, man. And this kind of gets into our keys to the game for the offense. You can argue that the offensive line will be the most important position that kind of decides this game. And I think I'm going to go out on that boat. I know we've been talking a lot about it, so I'm going to kind of segue just a little bit to the offense, man. I want to see the run game get going for this team. Raheem Mostert. So a lot of people were talking about the Bills game and saying how, well, based on yards per carry, the 49ers run game was running pretty well. Jeff Wilson, I forget the yardage total, but I know he's averaging over 6 yards per carry. Raheem Mostert was over 4.5 as well. It's just game script called for the run game to go away and cause Nick Mullins to really just pass 30 plus times. And I mean, that's why we see all these graphics saying that Nick Mullins has a chance to come in second place in terms of most passing yardage in his first 16 games or whatever it may be. And a lot of that's because he can't sustain because of all the turnovers. So it's a matter of, can Kyle Shanahan get the run game going? I think he can. It's just a matter of, can the offensive line get the push they need? And look, the Washington football team, they statistically on paper are a top 5 defense. The run game, they're just barely averaging over 100 yards per game, which is, I think it's like 10th in the league. So that's a very respectable total. But in my interview with Matthew Paris, Matthew was actually saying that the Washington football team is susceptible to big run plays or just big chunk gains as a whole. And he was talking about the Cleveland game where Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt both gashed them. And I mean, they're talented running backs, but I would say that Shanahan is a better play caller than Kevin Stefanski. Very similar style offenses, though. So if we're going to see a similar game in terms of who Washington has played and how they've defended, it'll be how Cleveland went. And if Kyle Shanahan can get that 49ers run game going, I don't know who the hot hand will be. We know he likes to rotate Raheem Mostert in with Jeff Wilson. I just really hope that Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon just don't come near the ball, Zach. I really want just Wilson and Mostert to be my 2 guys to blow up the run game entirely because it hasn't worked out for Coleman. Jerick McKinnon only played 2 offensive snaps last week, if I'm not mistaken, and it seems like those 2 guys have really been phased out of the offense entirely. So feed Wilson, feed Mostert. Take the pressure off of Nick Mullins, and if you can do that, we could see the team score 20 points. And that's a generous number, I feel, with Nick Mullins at 20 points.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think if the offense can put up anywhere from 20 to 24 points, I think they have a good shot at winning this game. I'm not too confident in their ability to do so. Unfortunately, that's where they are. That's who they are as a team. They're inconsistent. But I agree with you. The running game needs to get going. That's always been their bread and butter. That's the bread and butter of any Shanahan offense. And last week it wasn't really there, but I agree with you. They had to get away with it just due to the score, due to the way the game kind of panned out. I expect more from Raheem Mostert this week. And I agree with you again. Tevin Coleman needs to stay the hell away from the football because no matter what happens, you could have, and we saw it last week, I forget what exactly the play was, but an electrifying, 30, 40-yard play, and then you give it to Coleman, and he has an 11-yard loss in the backfield. It's like,
yeah. Oh, my. I mean,
my gosh.
Dude, a lot of people were saying, like, if that was Coleman's career summed up with the 49ers on one play, it was a minus 9-yard loss on a huge explosive play that I think was a play action to Ross Dwelly. And it's like, finally, we have some momentum. Finally, we got something positive to look at and talk about. And then, with much due respect to Coleman, Ayuk kind of blew the block because Ayuk was on the defensive end. But at the least, you would have hoped that Tevin Coleman would have been able to not lose 9 yards. You know what I mean? You would have hoped that at the least he wouldn't have had to been such a big loss.
Yeah. So, yeah, we should just do a giveaway. I'm kind of in the Christmas spirit. Let's go ahead and do this. Drop a comment below with how should we do this, Anthony?
Man, we got to save the score predictions for the last. So I'm going to say passing yards for Nick Mullins. How many passing yards do you guys think Nick Mullins is going to finish against the Washington football team?
Okay, yeah, do that. Drop your predictions. We don't have to wait for anybody to be right. We'll pick a winner tonight. I'm just going to close my eyes and randomly pick one. So make sure you guys are dropping your comments. Passing yards amount for Nick Mullins. And throw it in there. If you happen to get it right, we'll send you another gift. So do that. Let's get in this Christmas spirit. Let's see. Newbie. Is Eric Armstead still on the team? McKinney has been a complete failure. I think he means Jerick McKinnon. Armstead, unfortunately, talk about a disappointment. And Matt's talked about this before. He's not here tonight, but it's kind of what was expected almost. I know a lot of people bought into his production last year, but it's always hard to go off of a guy's contract year as to what you think they're going to be consistently. We saw the 3 years prior to that, I believe 3 years, it wasn't much. He wasn't really able to do much consistently. And of course his contract year, and B, you're playing again alongside Nick Bosa, DeForest Buckner, D Ford for a few games. It's no wonder you're going to look fantastic. And when you have bookend star defensive ends that are able to rush the quarterback really well, they're pushing the quarterback right into Arik Armstead's lap. So that's why he ended up with so many sacks. This year, he's kind of the main focus. Nick Bosa's not there. D Ford's not there. DeForest Buckner's not there. He's the lone star there. And that's where all of the offensive line's attention is focusing on. And you can't blame them. That's just where they're at. So I do agree that it's unfortunate that's how it panned out, but I'm not too surprised because I was never too thrilled with Arik Armstead to begin with. He's an $85 million run stuffer, unfortunately. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, John Lynch and Parag Marate just kind of fell to victim of circumstance, man. I mean, I will say that it did work in Arik Armstead's favor and really the defense's favor that Armstead was able to execute and get the job done. And it's a matter of, well, if Nick Bosa and D Ford were to have played this year, how much of Armstead's success would carry over and what would we see from him? And it's like our own Scott Gillen say it best, man. Arik Armstead is like literally a top 3 defender against the run. Like this dude just knows how to play the run on his side of the field really well. But the moment he has to rush the passer, even just gets in a one-on-one situation, Armstead just falters, and he doesn't have the guys around him. He doesn't have the good supporting cast to help really elevate his play. And it's frustrating to say the least that you pay guys so much money who was very reliant on the people around him. And good for him, good for Armstead that he was able to make his money, man. But it's just, it's definitely too much to be asking from Arik Armstead at this point to go out and be a 2+ sack per game type of guy, let alone even 2 pressures, man, because it feels like Arik Armstead just does not get pressures whatsoever. Lucky for him, against this Washington football team, they do feature a below average offensive line with a quarterback who does get sacked a lot. I was reading an article that said Alex Smith, since he started, has been sacked, I think, 31 times so far in 5 or 6 games. That's more than Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees when he was playing, and Tom Brady, and not put together, but just those guys alone. So if Arik Armstead, man, is going to make his money, if Arik Armstead's going to make his money tonight, tomorrow, it's got to be against Washington. Otherwise, it's just that contract looks really, really even worse than how it's been this all season.
Unfortunately, yes. That's I would say one of the biggest mistakes, and I don't want to frame this in a way that they should have kept Buckner over Armstead. I don't think they were able to afford Buckner regardless on if they kept Armstead. But that coupled with the D Ford trade and sign, that's unfortunate because if that doesn't happen, and look, we're looking back with 2020, like they say, hindsight's 2020 vision. We're looking back with the knowledge we have now. At the time, I was extremely happy with the trade for D Ford.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, when Chiefs fans were tweeting at me saying, oh, he's completely injury prone, good luck with this guy, he's only going to play X amount of games, I thought you guys are just bitter, you're losing a fantastic player. No, they were right. They were giving us a heads up. And if they weren't able, if they're able to not trade for him and, a couple other things don't go the way they went, we have Buckner and Armstead's gone. This is a much better defensive line. And Matt makes a comparison I think is a really good comparison, is Arik Armstead got this contract because of mainly DeForest Buckner's production right next to him. Well, Mike McGlinchey got drafted in the first round because of Quentin Nelson's production right next to them at Notre Dame. It's completely the same.
Yep. Okay. I'm done with the Mike McGlinchey slander, man. I fear for this game. It's going to be so bad, man. It's going to be such a bad matchup on paper. And yeah, Matt's right. It's just, Mike McGlinchey, just like draft position, is a victim of circumstance. And look, you can, all the draft heads will argue that, well, if we didn't trade Buckner and we re-signed him and let Armstead walk, then Kinlaw wouldn't have come, and who knows if Ayuk would have been picked and whatever it may be. You got to trust the regime, man. You got to trust and understand that if these guys have someone they want to go and get, like the team has done with Reuben Foster, like the team has done with Dante Pettis, and all the guys that they've traded up for, and it sucks to have to bring up those names. But if you look at conceptually, you see that this regime wants to go out and trade up for people that they want. They would have gone and done it. And they did it with Ayuk, Zach. They traded up for Brandon Ayuk, and they got the guy, and look how Ayuk is done. So it's all hindsight, man. Hindsight's 2020. It's now it looks like a really bad move. I would even argue that even if Nick Bosa was healthy and I would, you could say if Nick Bosa didn't tear his ACL, because Dee Ford was going to miss time no matter what. I think no matter what the case would have been, Dee Ford would not have played the amount of games that he's missed so far. That's just a given. But even with Nick Bosa back, Zach, I got to kind of ask you this question. Do you think if Bosa was back, that Armstead's production would be significantly better than where it is now and on a level similar to last year? Or do you think that we would have seen a regression regardless?
I think we would have seen a small regression. I think last year was an anomaly. I think it's, you're playing to earn the best contract you can earn, whether that's with the 49ers or whether it's with another team. And it's hard to take that, star performance of the year and make that kind of the average of Eric Armstead. I don't think that's him as a player. And he definitely would have gotten some production with, Nick Bosa there. It would have been better, but I still don't think I don't think he'll ever be able to replicate what he did last season. The numbers, regardless of who's around him. I think that's just really an anomaly. And I don't think that that's something that can be done again, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, shoot. Dee Ford is likely gone, man. I don't see Dee Ford coming back. I really hope he retires, and I'm going to look at it more from just a money perspective and just a business. I hope he retires for his own health. Like, dude, back injuries, neck injuries, hip injuries. Like, I want me as a human, I want Dee Ford to be walking by the time he's 40 years old. You know what I mean? And I'm sure he's made more than enough money throughout his time playing football. I'm sure that he's all set up for retirement in the long run. I mean, if he wants to be a champion, obviously players will go out and still have something to prove, like Richard Sherman, who wants to get a ring, and like a lot of veterans. But when it comes to health, man, Dee Ford's I think he's got to call it. And with that being said, it kind of sets up for the team's future. Obviously, there's a lot of big free agent question marks going forward. There's a lot of big draft question marks going forward. And there's a comment here from Newbie, who kind of talks about GM jobs and drafting a little bit. And I think it's a given that Robert Saleh leaves. Adam Peters is a different story, Zach. A lot of people have been kind of chanting that John Lynch should get moved to president of football operations just to kind of save face and really just keep him in the building. But Adam Peters is the respected one, man. It feels like Adam Peters for years and years and years he's been the hot head or the hot GM candidate for any given team. And Adam Peters is very well respected throughout the league. So I'm really hoping that Adam Peters gets bumped up to our GM job if John Lynch gets pushed to president of football operations. And then I think if that's the case, man, I think the philosophy of drafting, I think the philosophy of the team will change for the better. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's kind of my other big fear too, is Adam Peters does get kind of poached by another team. I think we'll end up seeing him become the GM. I do think that. I think that the team we've talked about, I don't know if we've talked about it previously or me and Matt, but there's a scenario in which they make John Lynch say like VP of operations, and then they give Adam Peters the GM position. I do think at one point that might be the only way to keep him, because he's a hot name. Teams know how talented he is. And every time we see these draft videos that the team puts out after the draft, Adam Peters is always extremely involved in it. And Kyle Shanahan talked about it himself. I believe when they were asking him about Ayuk, he kind of said, Adam kind of brought his tape to me. He showed me a lot of stuff about him. So Adam Peters is a central part of the 49ers front office, and I would be extremely nervous to lose him. But I've said it before, Saleh's all but gone. I think that's a certainty. The 49ers are, and this is something I asked Matt, and he wasn't too sure. Is it this year that they'll earn the 2 draft picks if Saleh leaves? So they would get it in this upcoming draft?
Yeah, they get a 3rd round pick for 2021, which I would imagine is a supplemental draft pick, and then 2022 as well. So they get 2 3rd round picks, both in one in next year and then one the year after. So, I mean, man, if Adam Peters is stepping in this GM job, he's going, all right, Saleh, see it. We need all the draft capital we can get.
Yeah, we got a super chat here. Thank you guys for the love. You guys are awesome. Thanks for always bringing content. Everybody like and sub. Appreciate you. Thank you for always tuning in. One of our most loyal subscribers right here. So we really do appreciate you. We love Talk 49ers. We used to do these live stream, or we used to do these previews recorded and then we'd upload it, but we just have a lot more fun doing them live. We get to interact, take questions, comments, whatever it is. So everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. If you're listening or watching, I should say, make sure you're subscribed. We do have our jersey giveaway going on right now. All you got to do is subscribe and comment your username on Instagram, Twitter. That way we know who it is. If you're already subscribed and you want to enter, all you have to do is tweet out one of our videos or share one of our videos and just tag us in it so we know and you're entered in. The winner will be announced on the 17th. Now let's show our second Santa Claus merch. Link is in the bio for these. We showed our first one earlier. This is our second design. So check it out, guys.
That is definitely my favorite design, bro. Kyle Shanahan with the beard just gets me. Man, it gets me every single time.
Right beard. The artist had a lot of fun with that one. They did a good job. I was pleased with it.
Yeah, they nailed it.
I wish I could say I was artistically talented enough to come up with that. Definitely not. We have a couple artists here on the team that we're able to work with. So that was cool. So if you guys want to get some Santa Claus merch, check that out. Links in the bio below. If you're on Twitter, it's in our profile. Check those out. And you can save 15% with code HIVE15. That is HIVE 15. Make sure you get that before Christmas. You can get rush shipping, still get it before Christmas. Another comment here. This is Mullins' statement game. His future isn't with the Niners, and he wants to be a starter in the league. This game will show other teams if he can come back after a bad game. 28 for 37, 278, and 2 TDs. That's a hell of an endorsement for Nick Mullins.
Man, I mean, I think we might have found Nick Mullins' YouTube burner to get that money. I will say though that talking way earlier in the show, Zach, and I was talking to some other people too. This feels like one of those games where it's like, if it's not going to be low scoring 10-7, it's going to be like really weirdly high scoring, and I would be surprised if Nick Mullins and Alex Smith combined for like 500 passing yards or some crazy number. But I will say that putting on my GM hat, man, if I'm thinking of cap saving moves and salary saving moves, Jimmy Garoppolo's got to go, but Nick Mullins should stay as the backup, man. I don't have any hate for Nick Mullins, dude. I know Nick Mullins is a very serviceable starter. He's not serviceable for a long stretch of games like he's been playing, this entire season basically. But when you need him to play in a pinch or when you need him to come in, he will play well. And Nick Mullins plays very good for a backup. And I would argue that he's a top 3 backup in the entire league. So if Nick Mullins has himself one hell of a game, I think he's putting the writing on the wall that he should come back as the backup. It's just a matter of what the Niners were actually going to do at quarterback at that point. But man, I think Nick Mullins is weirdly set up to have a good game tomorrow. It's just, I just hope the offensive line holds, man. It's a really scary matchup for those guys.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. He's a fantastic backup. I don't think he's a quality starter. He's a starter for a team like Jacksonville, those bottom tier teams.
Yeah, placeholder.
Exactly. But Matt's made this comparison as well too, or I shouldn't say comparison. He's made this point that it's basically an extension of Kyle Shanahan as a coach. And he knows the offense so well that I would bet he's always going to have, if he's willing to take a backup job and not look for a job where he can compete to be the starter, he's always got a backup job here with the 49ers because he knows the offense in and out. He understands what's asked of the quarterbacks. And unfortunately, even though he can't physically get it done, I do think that he still knows what to do. So there's always going to be a backup position for him here. And I agree with you from a GM perspective. Jimmy's got to go if he doesn't restructure that contract significantly, and Nick Mullins should stay as either a placeholder or just a backup moving forward. We're going to be wrapping things up here soon, guys. We do this thing every week. Nobody's won it yet. A couple of weeks ago against the Ram games, people got really close, 1 or 2 points. Comment your final score predictions in the chat below. If you happen to get it right, you'll also win some free merch. We'll announce the winner tonight shortly, but you could win again if you happen to get the final score right. So drop your final score predictions below. and we'll check it out after the game, see if anybody was right. So let's go into wrapping things up here, Anthony. Who is your offensive MVP tomorrow?
Man, you know me, Zach. Whenever I do podcasts and shows, I never pick the quarterback because the quarterback is such a cheap pick. Man, it's going to be the Debo and Ayuk show, I think, dude. And that doesn't mean that Mullins will have a good game per se, but I think with the weak secondary that Washington features, someone is going to have to step up. And I got to give to Ayuk, man. Ayuk had a really good game against the Bills last week. He had that really big deep ball catch that I don't think I've ever seen Mullins throw the ball that far in my life, to say the least. And I'm hoping that Kyle Shanahan seeing that and Mullins seeing that is like a revelation to both of them. Like, oh my God, just get that ball downfield. Trust your guy is going to go and make the catch. And Ayuk did it. And Debo had a very good game himself in the second half against the Bills. I know he wasn't featured enough. So it's a matter of who's going to step up, Zach. And I got to give it to Brandon Ayuk. I think Ayuk is just, it's not that he's the more dynamic wide receiver and just player, but the dude runs routes filthily. The guy can just beat you downfield if he gets the ball, and we saw that against the Bills. I got to give it to Ayuk, Zach. I think Ayuk will have himself one hell of a day. I'm going to give him, man, it's going to be a weird day. I think I'll give Ayuk over 100 receiving yards. I think I'll give him 110 on 7 catches. I'll give him one receiving touchdown and 1 rushing touchdown. I think he will be used as an extension of the run game like Shanahan does with Debo. I think Ayuk, though, is just going to have the hot hand. I think he's going to be the better dude. Give me Ayuk.
Wow. All right. I love that. That deep pass wasn't as pretty, but the catch was really nice last week. It was a little underthrown to the outside a bit, but he was able to haul it in. I loved seeing that because that's the type of stuff we saw of him at Arizona State. And I think if Jimmy was healthy, we'd at least see a little bit more of that so far, but we haven't seen too much of it yet. For me, yeah, last week, I am going to completely own up to it. You were on with me and Matt when I said Nick Mullins was going to have the game of his life. Basically what JG just said earlier, and I predicted him not to have as many passing yards, but to have a efficient day, no turnovers. I think I said 3 touchdowns, like 225 yards. That's not what happened. Although one of the interceptions, I don't remember how many he had, but I know one definitely wasn't his fault. Exactly. Yeah. I'm not making the same mistake. I'm not picking Nick Mullins. I will go with perhaps the second easiest choice, though, because I'm a coward, and I'm going to go with Raheem Mostert. I think he's going to have a bounce-back game. You don't see – and it got to the point last week where people were like, is he injured? Like, what's going on? Like, he hasn't touched the ball in like 8-10 minutes. Like, what's the deal? I think he bounces back, and I think that in order for the 49ers to win, he needs to have a good game. So I'm going with Raheem Mostert, and I'm going to say 18 carries, 110 yards, and a touchdown.
Yes, sir. Give him the ball.
Yes, sir. And real quick, I got my pregame victory outfit on. Y'all know, if you've been tuning in, I don't rock the red tie and gold pocket tie clip. I got my little 49ers lapel pin. I don't know if the mic can pick or if the camera picks it up. I'm ready to win. I don't put this on if I'm not ready to win. So I'm ready to win. I think they win on the shoulders of Raheem Mostert. Who do you got for your defensive MVP?
Man, defensive MVP. You know what? I think I'm going to give it to Richard Sherman. He's playing for a lot right now, and I know he's got to own up to that Bills game. He's got to own up to his level of play. It was not good. He got cooked by Stephon Diggs. He got cooked by Gabriel Davis. He got cooked by Cole Beasley. If Beasley wasn't in the slot or if Beasley ran on his side of the field, Sherman still got cooked. So I think this will be a good day for the defense. I think the defensive line and just the entire secondary will be able to just get after Alex Smith. It's just a matter of if they can execute. And this is just a battle of smarts at this point, man. It's a matter of how well does Richard Sherman know Alex Smith. And I think Sherman played against Alex Smith for a couple of seasons when Sherman was in Seattle at the time. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. I think Sherman got drafted in 2011, I want to say, or 2012. So Sherman did get a full season of Alex Smith, to say the least. And I think Sherman will take his knowledge of the game and his knowledge of Alex Smith onto the field. I think Sherman will have an interception. Alex Smith doesn't throw these that often, and if he does, it's just a circumstance. And I think Sherman is just going to have a bounce-back game. I think I'll give him a couple pass deflections also. He knows he's not going to play down to Terry McLaurin unless McLaurin's on his side of the field. If that's the case, if Sherman's lined up on Cam Sims or Isaiah Wright, Sherman will play on him, man. Sherman will not give him any space, and it's a matter of who's going to win a contested catch. And I will give the edge to Sherman over the younger guys. Give him an interception from me, man. Give him a couple of pass deflections. I think Sherman bounces back.
Okay, I like that. Veteran bounce back game. I could see it, but I'm not picking Sherman. I hope he does bounce back for the 49ers' sake and for his own sake. And just like taking the quarterback is the easy way out. Matt said it last week. I'm not going to pick Fred Warner. You could pick Fred Warner each and every week and basically be correct. I'm going to go with my guy, Kerry Hyder. I think you picked him last week. He is the unsung hero of the 49ers defense right now. Nick Bosa went out. Kerry Hyder stepped in. It's not the same. Don't get me wrong. I would still much rather have Nick Bosa out there, but he's a nice consolation prize. He's a good second string. I mean, he's probably a starter in a lot of other teams, but just with the 49ers, he would be a solid backup to Nick Bosa, but he's a good starter right now. So I'm really pleased with Kerry Hyder. I think he's going to be the defensive MVP, and I'm going to go with 2 sacks. I think he has 2 sacks tomorrow against Alex Smith. Hopefully he can get the job done. And I got faith in him. He's been really surprisingly good this year. So wrapping it up, final score predictions. Anthony, who do you got?
Man, I got to give it to the 49ers, dude. I think they're playing with their backs against the wall. Kyle Shanahan has these dudes ready to play hard. It will be an ugly matchup, though, Zach. I think we will see a good amount of turnovers like the Rams game. Obviously, Alex Smith is better than Jared Goff, but by no means does that mean Alex Smith will throw interceptions. But if the defensive line can get after him, we will see some fumbles. The Washington football team does not have Antonio Gibson, their star running back. That is a huge loss. They're going to feature Peyton Barber and J.D. McKissick, 2 respected but not so world beaterish running backs in terms of just how they play. This defense, it's going to be a battle of defense, man. I think we will see a low scoring bout. I'm going to go out on a limb, man. I'm going to say 17-9 49ers. I think the Niners will get that edge by a couple touchdowns and a field goal. I think the defense can hold Washington to a few field goals at best. And as much as I want to see Alex Smith do well, man, my Niners and our Niners, they gotta give us some hope. As much as I like the draft, I want to see hope and I want to see the fire that these guys want to compete and want to win. 17-9 49ers.
That is a very unique score. I mean, 2 touchdowns, a field goal versus 3 field goals. I could see it. For me, I'm going to go, again, I got my pregame victory outfit on. I think they keep their playoff hopes alive and they win. We did a video earlier in the week on our weekly show, Niners News. We do a show usually Tuesday through Friday. We do a morning show, 10-minute segments. Go and check that out if you guys haven't. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't. And we did a video earlier in the week assessing the 49ers playoff chances. And although I thought that they might not be able to do it, Matt was a lot more confident than me. And it starts tomorrow. If they can win tomorrow, they have a chance at still making the playoffs. I think they keep it alive. I'm going to go 21-17 49ers. I think they get the job done. I really do. Like you said, a lot's on the line. Kyle Shanahan, he understands what's at stake here. If they want any shot of being a playoff, even in the hunt, they got to win tomorrow. So I'm going with that. Now let's pick a winner for this giveaway. I'm going to close my eyes, swiping up and down here in the chat. And, oh, that's us. Can't pick us. All right. Here we go. Make sure I'm getting in the right comments. Closing my eyes. B-Dubs. Shout us out. Hit us up. We'll send you some free content, free merch. Sorry, I'm looking at this. Brandon Ferrigno. Hit us up. We'll get you some free merch. Thank you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it, guys. And catch us live tomorrow, right after the game. We will be live going over everything. Hopefully it's a positive one. Hopefully we win.
Oof.
Yes. If not,
it's crazy. This game could go both ways. Anyway.
Yeah, earlier in the week, or earlier in the season, I should say, I came on here for a post game and I was in my all black suit because we laid to rest the 49ers season. It's turned around a little bit, but if they lose tomorrow, you'll see me in all black once again. So hopefully not, but thanks for tuning in, y'all. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, turn notifications on, the whole 9 yards. Appreciate your support. Go Niners.
Go Niners, baby.